Hello, fellow followers, and welcome to FanZcene. So recently I came across this interview with Chris Gore, who is an indie filmmaker and critic, and he's been around in the business for quite some time. He did this interview with Film Courage, and this interview that I found, it's like a section of it, I believe. It was really good, and he says a lot of stuff in this that I think a lot of us have been saying for years now, who are fans of movies and the entertainment business. And I really wanted to go over some of it. I'm going to show you some of it, go through some of it, and give you some of my thoughts along with how I agree with him on certain things and maybe disagree with him on other things. But it was, man, this is really fascinating, and I will have a link in the description below to the whole interview, because I'm not going to cover the whole interview, but I'm going to cover a lot of this. So let's get to it.
Would you say that 99% of all movies today are garbage?
Yes.
In an age where most movies are referred to as content, I would say that 99% of most movies are pretty bad. I always try to, when I say 99%, I mean of mainstream. It really is. When you look at, and especially I think one of the best examples of this is the sort of Zack Snyder's Justice League, and how that was bungled. How that was bungled, how the Star Wars franchise was bungled, how they could not. I mean, to me, I'm the studio executive in charge of Star Wars, and we're making a new Star Wars movie, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put Han, Luke, and Leia in a scene together.
Yes.
The fact that moment, we will never be able to have that moment in cinema when Carrie Fisher was alive. That to me is, that's malpractice. That's studio malpractice.
Yes.
The fact that they had what Zack Snyder's vision, what he was building up to be, and I think seeing the 4-hour final product of what Zack Snyder's Justice League turned out to be, and that they made this garbage thing, Joss Whedon. I mean, it's disheartening to me to see that.
So you heard him there. Talking about Star Wars, which a lot of us and a lot of YouTubers have been talking about, and fans of Star Wars have been talking about for years, the Snyder Cut of the Justice League, and how films are considered content today. When your product is no longer entertainment, it's content, and content is not what we want. We want entertainment. We want to be entertained. We want to enjoy watching things. And I totally agree with him here that a lot of 99% of the films today are garbage, mainstream films. And it was a huge, massive debacle with Zack Snyder's Justice League. I know some people don't like Zack Snyder, and some people don't like his version, but I think a lot of people really hated the Joss Whedon version, the Whedon cut. And, it was not very good. And that was totally, you could see where studios went in. And I totally agree with him here that, the fact that we didn't get Han and Luke and Leia and Chewie and even Lando, I would throw in there too, in one scene together in Star Wars. That wasn't like one of the very first things they did. Is total lack of respect for fans, for audiences. And it's just, like he said, malpractice. It truly is malpractice, because it's just I don't know, man, but let's go over some more, and I'll give you some more of my thoughts as we get through it.
Can't compare, because in my mind, there is no excuse for a studio to fail when they put out a blockbuster movie. You have no excuse. Your job is to entertain me, not lecture me.
Like I said.
Not lecture me. Your job is to entertain me. Unfortunately, we live in a time, back in the day when Star Wars was first made, I feel like they were checking one box, and it was called fun.
Yes.
And now there's a million boxes that must be checked. There are all sorts of noting and committees and this thing. And this is where you end up with, that last Star Wars movie by J.J. Abrams is unwatchable. I mean, it's garbage.
Personally, I've never even seen it. I couldn't make it past the first 20 minutes.
It informs exactly everything wrong with the studio system. It's terrible. So I look at the Justice League debacle, the Star Wars franchise, and how that was mishandled. And I look at that and I just think, how could that have been done? Where was there ever looking at the fans and what they think?
No, they're not.
What did the fans think of this stuff? Are they satisfied with the fans? Most normal people don't
I get it.
is it entertaining? I'm taking my family, and especially how expensive it is to the movie theater experience, which is going away, right? The theatrical
Sadly.
experience of seeing a movie is going away. You had better entertain me. And I think that whether Hollywood notices it or not, I think that people don't really like politics woven into fairly mainstream, which should be mainstream entertainment experiences.
Once again here, I agree with a lot of what he said here. It seemed like when movies were made, like Star Wars original, when it was made, they were made for fun, enjoyment, entertainment. And today, it just seems like there's so many social identity politics, so much check boxing, like he said, on who can we get in here, what can we get in here, what can we make this. There's no more creativity in Hollywood, and like he said, we don't go to to see a movie to be lectured. It's lecture this, lecture that on all of us, and politics are being infused in it, and it's just destroying the entertainment industry. It's destroying entertainment. It's destroying movies. And like he said, the theater, which is so sad because I absolutely love going to the theaters, but you can't go to the theaters anymore because, after everything was closed down, and then when they're coming back, there's not even a movie worth seeing in the theaters. And it's these blockbusters. They were one time a staple. Jaws was the first blockbuster. It was such a great, massive movie. And for better or worse, we got these summer blockbusters for so many years, and now that's basically gone away. And it's just, they're not entertaining anymore. And man, I agree with a lot of this. And let's continue. Let's see what else he's got for us.
There should almost be a marketing award. And here's the problem, the conundrum. The marketing for these movies is so good.
That's true.
The product doesn't live up to the marketing. So, I got chills watching the trailers for The Rise of Skywalker.
I was a lot of people did.
Excited to see that movie. The ninth. I was a kid when I saw Star Wars, and seeing the ninth movie for a lot of people. I cannot believe how horrible it turned out. It's really, to me, it's malpractice. What happened to that franchise, and how it's divided fandom, fighting over things that are really irrelevant. I think it's relevant. It's not entirely irrelevant.
The fact
that they're just like, you're seeing people from within that company attack the fans.
Exactly, like Freddie Prinze Jr. attacking the fans.
I hate
Pablo
to see
Hidalgo.
It because I'm like, nerds are my people. I go to San Diego Comic-Con every year. I have since the 90s gone to San Diego Comic-Con, and so to see people fractured over this is really disheartening. But when it comes to studio movies, there's no excuse not to fail.
I tend to agree. A lot of us wonder, how are these movies becoming so successful? Let's be honest here. These studios, these companies, they put a lot of money into these. Like he said, with the marketing. Marketing is genius on a lot of these things, and they're marketed to people, and people just go out and they want to see it because they get so entertained. Like he said, he got chills watching the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker trailer. I didn't personally, but I know a lot of people did, and it is Star Wars. It's something, whether you think it's dead or whether you, The Last Jedi, which was horrible, took away your enjoyment of it. You still, there was people out there who still was like, yeah, I'm going to see The Rise of Skywalker. I didn't, because I couldn't with what they did with it. But I totally get it. I totally get where the marketing strategy is what's making these things look so appealing, and then when you get in, you're getting absolutely garbage tier films. You're not getting enjoyment, you're not getting entertainment. Like you said earlier, you're getting lectured, and it has splintered the fans. It's splintered fans so much, amongst Star Wars fans, and not just Star Wars fans, but other franchises. And like he mentioned there, yes, recently Freddie Prinze Jr. was bashing fans on Twitter for having disagreements with him against Star Wars. He's up there with Lucasfilms, and Pablo Hidalgo, he bashes fans all the time from Lucasfilm. And the fact that these companies, specifically Lucasfilm, allow them to keep doing that and keep employing them is just disturbing. And Chris here makes a lot of good points, and he's been in the industry for a long time. He's been around for a long time, and he's making a lot of good points here. So let's see what else he has to say.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at like the era, the 70s being the last great era of American filmmaking, we really are losing that American identity because we become so fractured as a culture. And I think you know, where's the movie that we all love, without debate, that we've all loved? Exactly. I don't know that there is one. And that's really,
Maybe one.
you know, I really, and at the end of the day, I miss loving Star Wars. I miss loving it.
Me
I
too,
used
buddy.
to love it.
Me too.
And now I'm saddened by that franchise. I'm using that as like the best example. There's a lot of other examples. We could talk about the Terminator franchise.
Yes.
We could talk about Star Trek.
Yes.
We can talk about these sort of dead franchises that
They're dead
have
for a
sort of
reason,
lost
though.
their way. But when you look at, like, I just saw a documentary called Laddie, Laddi, about Alan Ladd, the visionary studio executive who basically greenlit Star Wars and protected George Lucas. I'm just afraid we're never going to see another George Lucas, right? We're never going to see another real creative visionary that changes the industry, because everything is so corporate. You know, it's like, what did Francis Ford Coppola say? Factory filmmaking. That's the age in which we live. There's factory filmmaking, which is a product and content. And then there's up and coming indie filmmakers.
Okay, so here's where I disagree with him a little bit, is that yes, the 70s was a great era for film and American filmmaking, but I feel like 80s, because if you've ever watched my channel, you know I'm a huge 80s fan. I feel like the 80s was the last great decade of film and American filmmaking. Maybe into the early 90s as well, like 95, 96 maybe. I think somewhere around in the late 90s is when we really lost our way in American filmmaking. I think 80s, not 70s, but no, I'm not saying they're not, because there's great flicks in the 70s and the 80s. But I think the 80s is the last great decade of American cinema. And, you know, I also tend to agree, like he mentioned Star Trek, Terminator, and Star Wars, and you know, all these franchises and how they're dead. They're dead for a reason. They're not dead because fans don't like them or enjoy them. They're dead because of the people that took them over. The people like Kathleen Kennedy, the people like Rian Johnson, the people like Alex Kurtzman, who took these franchises over and made them something they're not. It destroyed them, and it's destroyed a whole fan base and splintered so many people. And like, you know, our country is fractured today from one side to the other, and it gets tiresome. It really gets so tiresome to hear people say this or people say that, and you know, and just to see these great franchises to be basically dead, like you said, because of these people, is just heartbreaking. It's truly heartbreaking. And he did say, where's the one great film that we can all agree on? I tend to think maybe, I know this is an 80s movie. Maybe not today. I don't know if he was referring to today or whatnot, but Back to the Future. I think Back to the Future can be one of those movies that a lot of us, maybe not all of us, like you said, but a lot of us, most people would agree is probably one of the greatest movies there is. But there's so many. And, you know, he mentioned indie films, and there are a lot of great indie films out there as well too. Because I think independent films and independent creators is right now is where it's at. That's where the creativity is. Because he mentioned how he doesn't think there's going to be, he's afraid that there's not going to be another George Lucas because that less great creativity. That's true. But there are a lot of great indie filmmakers and independent creators out there, not just in like the movie scene, like here on YouTube and other companies that are trying to. I will say, like myself personally, I made an 80s documentary on my channel, and I consider myself a creator, and I really wanted to get into more long form creative type things and get into things like this. And the people that made like In Search of Darkness and Search of Tomorrow, they're for the fans, by the fans. They're independent creators, and they're not beholden to Hollywood. So I really think there's enough independent spirit out there for creativity. But like you said, the corporate factory making machine, like you know, will they allow these creativity to happen? No, they probably won't. And personally, you know, I don't think we're going to approach that stage anytime soon.
Of course, the movies are always an ongoing conversation with friends. If you're in my circle, it'll come up. And it's like when you look at like when certain decisions are organic, or when you see when it's shoehorned in, right? When certain things are shoehorned in, like the trope that's become a trope now of the strong female lead. It's just Ripley was a great character. Like just write a great character, not try to shoehorn in a type right?
Right.
And you kind of know it when you see it. You go, oh, this is cliche. You're trying to shoehorn in a type rather than like, that's just a great character.
Once again, a really great point. It has become a trope because now you know when they create a movie with a female lead that she's going to be a trope, like it's for being like forced in there instead of a character like Ellen Ripley from Alien and Sarah Connor from the original Terminator films, these are women characters. A lot of us, men included, really loved and latched onto and enjoyed. And today's, they're not so much trying to be create this type of character like you said. They're focusing on shoehorning in something that people don't want to see. None of us have nothing against a strong female lead. It's just when the strong female lead is put in a way where it's like a trope. It's become like a trope where what it's going to be. It's for political gain and not so much for character or story. If you have a character and you have the story, it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman or what race or ethnicity or anything like that. It's entertaining. We watch it. We will enjoy it. I agree with him on that. It's becoming just too. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Man, woman, black, white. Just make something that's fun and entertainment, and we'll watch it. It doesn't matter what color or gender you are. That's always. That's I don't know. I don't know.
But when it comes to studio films, there's just too many notes. There are too many people that it's sort of, the modern day ball player, right? Like, it's just like, it's not about the passion for playing the game. Not about a passion of, hitting the ball and hearing the roar of the crowd. It's the licensing deals and it's this and the sales of that. And
J.J. Abrams
and whatnot. I when I look back at the movie The Player, which came out when I first moved to Los Angeles, Robert Altman's The Player, things haven't changed. The subject has changed. I mean, that was it was erotic thrillers and, it was Julia Roberts and Bruce Willis were being cast in every movie that was pitched in that film. Now it's superhero movies, but it's really too many cooks. And I feel like the people being, elevated to these positions are good executives, but they're not people that know the material, the heart of the material. And when you look at the history of, creatives who really created something like a George Lucas or a Gene Roddenberry, things begin to lose their way when they get sidelined, right? You really need those. I feel like the modern day Hollywood now, and especially with streaming changing the game, theaters, the survival of theaters being in doubt, really, we may live at a time where maybe the billion-dollar blockbuster may not be back for a long time. And that may end up being a good thing, right?
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. There's a little more to it. And like I said, I will put a link down in the description below so you guys can go check out the whole interview because it is a really, really great interview. But like he said in there, in that last little bit that I'm going to cover here, yes, executives, they don't get it. They don't get it. They're too busy worried about licensings and stuff. People like Kathleen Kennedy, J.J. Abrams, they're just in it to make money, and they're just about trying to check boxes and do these things, and they're disconnected with the fans and what their audience is. And take for instance, like they're making Superman black now, which is Superman's my all-time favorite character, and I didn't really do a video on it, and I didn't want to really speak on it. Because it just upsets me so much, and it really made me mad. And what could I honestly? I know we have to stand up with a faith, but I know we have to stand up and say stuff. And I haven't put my thoughts in my head the way I want, but I say this as like it's really bad, and it may be actually good. Not the movie, but this may be a good thing because maybe it will cause the collapse of something of this ideal like politics type things, because I feel like the change is going to happen in entertainment and in movies, and that maybe we will get some creativity down the line, but I do think maybe it's time for the billion-dollar blockbusters to maybe crumble. And I say that with good intentions because maybe something like this Black Superman will flop and flop hard, because I've always said that when something finally, when this, call it woke, call it SJW, call it social, political politics or whatever in these movies, once it reached to a point where there's a movie made with all these check, like you mentioned, check boxes, checked off, it's going to flop, and it's going to flop hard, and it's going to cost these studios major money. And it's not just going to flop here in America, it's going to flop in China, it's going to flop worldwide. And when that happens, which I feel like it is coming, but things are going to get a little worse before it gets better. We're going to get stuff that we don't, that's really, really, like really bad. And if you think what we've got now is bad, it's going to get worse. But I think that's signaling a turn in entertainment and stuff, because there's so many people like Chris Gore, like us, out there that have started to turn away from these movies and turn away from this form of entertainment and are missing so much stuff. That's one of the reasons why on my channel here I've started to focus so much on the 80s and cult films and 90s, is because I love that time. I love that era. I love those films. They're entertaining. They're fun. They're watchable. They're enjoyable. There's so many I've not seen, and there's so many that you can just dig into and enjoy, and you can get into those while you're waiting for modern stuff to turn around, which it will maybe a long time, but I do feel like that is coming, and it's coming down. It's going to be a while, but it's going to flop, and maybe something like the Black Superman will be the catalyst that sets it all off for change. That's all I can say is, and I really dug this with Chris Gore. It's kind of like a rant thing, and I was glad that somebody else out there in Hollywood kind of thinks this stuff. So so these are some of my thoughts on it, for good or bad, but I didn't turn anybody off. But I feel like some of us have been talking about this for so long that it's nice to see that some other people are starting in the industry, maybe on an independent level, because he's more independent than mainstream, but it's starting, and it's just going to take a while. But do I have hopes? I don't know. But I'm fine with living in the VHS videotape era. I've talked to people who do documentaries on the 80s and just have a love for this, and that's what I'm into. So these are my thoughts, and if you like this video, please give it a like. If you did not like this video, you can go ahead and give it a dislike. It's all up to you guys. Leave me some comments down below on all this and how you guys feel. Let's get a dialogue going. Let's get a discussion going. If you disagree with me, if you disagree with him, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. A good, healthy discussion is what is needed. And please subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. I would truly appreciate it. Wherever you guys are, please have a great, safe, happy, healthy day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. I thank you guys for watching. Godspeed.